Ugh. Okay. Hi. So, a lot of people have been asking me what's been going on with me going back and forth from Brazil to New York and Brazil to New York and blah blah blah, and what's going on with my health and stuff like that. And I don't really like repeating myself, so I'm just gonna make this and send it to all y'all. A couple days ago, I know I texted some people who were asking me about it, and I was like, hey, like I don't want to talk right now because I was having some other issues that I was dealing with. So I'm sorry I took way too long to get back to you, but basically this is gonna be like a big summary of what's been going on. November, I believe, of 2017. I believe it was 2017. I went to Maine. When I got to Maine, I had an issue with my tonsils and I got tonsillitis for the first time. I went to the emergency room and the doctor just basically told me to take Advil and drink tea. At the time I was living in Orlando, so I went back to Orlando and I just kept getting tonsillitis like every month. And after I moved to New York, January 21st of 2018. So it was stupid cold, and I'm not used to that kind of cold. Like, sure, I lived in Canada before, but where I lived, it wasn't that cold. It snowed maybe once at night. My body wasn't used to the temperature. I started getting tonsillitis all the time, and I had to be on vocal rest, and I shouldn't be going to school, which I still was. Fevers all the time. I was very stressed because of school, which didn't help the snowball of problems that I was having. And I was dealing with them, but I was pushing myself way too much. Summer 2018, I got mono. So I had tonsillitis, it went away, and then I got mono. They kept treating me as if I had like a mild tonsillitis that just started making things worse and worse and worse. So at one point I went in, and this was a couple weeks into me going to doctors and stuff. They were like, let's just, draw some blood and see what's going on. And they were like, okay, yeah, you have mono, so you gotta do this. I didn't stop like going to school. A little less than a month into me trying to figure out what was going on, I could barely go to school. I missed almost an entire week of school. And just so you know, for my specific school and my specific program, you're not allowed to miss many classes, and you have no excused absences. You can't be late. It's just a very, very rigorous and strict schedule. So I missed almost an entire week. And at that point, we were starting to figure out what we were gonna do for our like final projects. We had to like audition for it. Like I missed pretty much all of the audition days, and then I went in once because they give you like a bunch of different scripts to read. I barely had any time to read them. I read them regardless, and then they drew blood, and the doctor said that I had mono. But the school was aware of it, and I just kept going. I couldn't really go a lot because I couldn't talk and I was barely eating anything. So it was really, really taking a toll on me. I thought I was getting better. I went to this venue where I used to intern at, and I was breaking down my scene, doing my work, and I thought I was better. The following morning, I woke up much worse. From then on, basically, really big summary of what happened. My tonsil on the right side is much bigger than my tonsil on the left side. On the left side, it's normal. On the right side, it's like a little ping pong ball. It started getting like bigger and bigger and bigger. So my tonsil was massive, and it was just covering this entire thing, inflamed. My jaw was locked. I couldn't eat. I couldn't swallow saliva. Like I had to spit it out. I was trying, like all I was eating, I had to take the straw and try to put it between my teeth so I could drink some Gatorade. The doctors, they were treating me as if my tonsil was getting that big just because of the mono. As if like, oh, tonsillitis isn't even an option. I had to drop out of school, and I was like that for about at least a month and a half. Barely being able to eat, barely being able to do anything. And I was just getting progressively worse. I couldn't eat, I was losing a lot of weight, breathing was hard, I couldn't really sleep at all. I was doing absolutely nothing. This one night, I'm on my way to go to sleep, I'm sitting on my bed, and I just can't breathe. I text my mom, who was in her room. I can't breathe. We have to go to the emergency room. I can't take this anymore. Like, none of the doctors are helping me. I was in so much pain that I would just pace back and forth and try to trick myself into swallowing when I wasn't paying attention. That I thought if I wasn't paying attention it would hurt less, which it didn't. I was just constantly trying not to cry, because if I cried, then it hurt like a motherfucker. I could only breathe through my nose, obviously, so if I was crying, then I had mucus and I couldn't breathe. At this point, it had been maybe like 3 months from when it started to where I was. She takes me to the emergency room. The doctor was a fucking wow. And you need to understand, like, my tonsil was like right here. They're trying to push my mouth open, which is pushing my tonsil, which hurt like a bitch. And my jaw was like locked for like a month and a half, 2 months. This wasn't gonna happen. And he's like, well, I can't see it at all. And I'm like, well, you know, I know. He calls this other guy in. Basically what they thought I had was like an abscess. So the procedure for that was they took these little like numbing drops. So they were trying to get me to open my mouth enough so they can put it on my tonsil, which at that point I was crying like a little bitch. Like, I just couldn't. So he puts the numbing drops in. None of the drops went on my tonsil. They all went down my throat. I can't feel my throat. I don't know if I'm swallowing, but I can feel my tonsil just fine. He takes this needle, at very least this big, opens my mouth, goes through my tonsil all the way to the other side, and then he's trying to suck something out of it, but there's nothing in it. Takes it out. It wasn't like the super like thin needle by any means. So he takes a little piece of gauze, that's what you call it, and he just starts pressing like against my tonsil because it's bleeding a lot and it won't stop bleeding, which I'll get to that. And eventually he just gives me a suction tube so I can just, you know, keep spitting into it. They put me on an IV and they were giving me medication. And then they put me on antibiotics, I believe. Eventually I started getting better. I went back to school, but I was still having problems. I had to be on vocal rest a lot. I still got tonsillitis fairly often. So we decide that I'm going to Brazil to get my surgery. So we decide I'm gonna go in September. Now, we're talking to my doctor about it. We bought the ticket. We tell her that I had mono, and she was like, you can't do the surgery. You have to be 100% healthy for at least 3 months because your immune system is way too weak right now, and we can't do it. We cancel that trip. We decide I'm gonna go back to school and finish it, and then I'm gonna go get my surgery. I went to Brazil February 1st. I'm doing all the exams. Everything is perfect. Everything is good to go. 2 days before the surgery, I had to draw blood for a completely separate thing. In the afternoon, I went home, I went to sleep, and I woke up with dried blood all over my arm. From like here to here, it was just all dried blood. I get up and I go to the sink and I clean it off, and then I see that the little hole is starting to bleed again. So I go to my grandma. She puts a little bit of something, but it stopped bleeding. Following day, I go out for lunch with my dad. I tell him what happened. He immediately kind of freaks out, calls my mom. My doctor immediately cancels my surgery. And now she's sending me to a separate doctor to figure out why I was still bleeding. I'm doing a bunch of tests. I find out I have a blood disease or disorder. I do all of these tests. We get the results back, which took a little bit of forever. She tells me she wants me to do them again at a different place, and she added a couple other factors that had to be looked at. So this doctor and my surgeon, they are talking back and forth, making sure they're on the same page. And my doctor tells my surgeon that I can do the surgery just fine if I take these precautions before and after. We schedule the surgery again. As soon as I find out how long it's going to take for me to get the results back for the other tests that I just did, my doctor says that we need to cancel the surgery. So I call my surgeon, and she is very confused, and I am very confused. And my doctor tells my surgeon, hey, I thought it was okay for her to do it, but it's not going to be, so we're going to have to cancel it. I really need these results. We cancel the surgery, and the results are gonna be ready by June 3rd, but because of my immigration status, I can only be out of the US for 6 months at a time, and I was already there for 2 plus the 2 that we're gonna take to get my results back, plus I need at least 2 to 2.5 for my surgeries, so that would go way past my limit. Now I'm staying in New York for about a month. Hopefully I won't have to do anything else. I know this has been a little confusing and kind of a ride, but that's basically what happened. There's a lot more little details and situations that I decided to leave out because they're not necessarily that important. I'm sorry this has been very long. Yeah, if you have any questions, honestly, just write it down here. If you do have any questions, if you have a lot of questions, then I'll just make another video. If you don't have any, if you have only a couple, maybe I'll just comment back or something. So that's it.